This training will show you how to map buildings in the OpenStreetMap application for the Missing Maps charity. To start, open your web browser. To start your mapping activity, navigate to tasks.hotosm.org. If not already logged on, click on the Login to OpenStreetMap button. Enter your login credentials into the email address and password bar. If you have not already got an account, click on the Register Now button. Click on the Remember Me box to save your details for next time, and then click Login. To give the OSMTM application access to your account, click on the Save Changes button. Here you are presented with the OSM Tasking Manager screen. If you are mapping at home, you can either search for a project code you're already aware of or browse the tasks available by scrolling down and reviewing what's on the list. If you are mapping at a mapathon or already have a project code, enter this into the search bar and press Enter on your keyboard. Select your located project by clicking on its name seen in blue. This takes you to the project overview screen. To find an area to map, click on the Contribute button. Then click on the Take a Task at Random button. To start your mapping, then click on the green Start Mapping button. You then need to select the program you will edit the map with. The program to use is ID Editor. If this is not pre-selected, select it from the drop-down list. Then click on the Edit with ID Editor button. This will then open the OpenStreetMap application in a new tab on your browser. The pink square that you can see is the area that you have been allocated to map. Zoom in and out on this by using the scroller on your mouse. Alternatively, use the plus and minus buttons on the right-hand side navigation bar. It is very important to remember when mapping not to map anywhere outside of your pink box. If you do, your work may not be saved. To improve the visibility of the area you are trying to map, you can adjust the background to be lighter or darker. Do this by clicking on the Background Settings button on the right-hand side navigation bar. Then at the top, there are buttons to make the background lighter or darker. Zoom in and assess your map carefully to identify potential buildings. Don't forget to always only look for these within your pink square or area. There are two types of buildings you will need to identify: rounded buildings or rectangular buildings. Rectangular buildings tend to be in more built-up and urban areas. Circular buildings tend to be in more rural areas and can be quite difficult to identify. Ways that may help to identify circular buildings include looking for shadows around the buildings, looking carefully for surrounding paths or walls, or looking for a point that could be at the top of a circular building or hut. Once you've identified your circular building, click on the Area button at the top of the screen. Using the cursor, then click on one side of the hut and drag this across to another side. Click your mouse once and then drag the cursor over to the other side of the building. Click your mouse again and then drag the cursor up to the other corner. Double-click your mouse and you will see that the square you have drawn goes red. We now need to make this shape circular. Click off the shape and back onto it, and this brings up a semicircle navigation bar. Click on the circular button, and this makes the shape rounded. We now need to categorize what it is that we've mapped. In the left-hand side feature type bar, click on Building. Then scroll down and click again on Building. We always only categorize these as buildings and leave it down to people in the field to recategorize them if they're identified as things such as schools or hospitals. If there are buildings of a similar size in the area that you are mapping, you can quickly copy these by clicking on it and pressing Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V and dragging the image over to the other building on your map. To save your work, click on the Save button in the centre of the top navigation bar. Then click on the blue Save button on the left-hand side of the screen. Please save your work regularly, because you don't want any of your mapping to get lost. Mapping rectangular buildings is very similar to mapping circular ones. Click on the Area button in the top navigation bar. Then use your cursor to draw the outline around the rectangular building that you have identified. Double-click once complete and the box will go red. Click off the rectangle and back onto it again to get the semicircle toolbar. Then click on the Square button to make the shape you've drawn go square. The building then needs to be categorized. Click on the Building button in the left-hand side Feature Type bar. Then scroll down to the second building option and click on Building again. Don't forget to regularly save your work. Once you have fully mapped your area and saved it, shut the OpenStreetMap tab you currently have open. If you have not completely finished all of the mapping in your allocated square, click on the Unlock button to allow other mappers to add to it. If you believe every element within your square to be complete, click on the Mark Task as Done button, and this will put the map forward for validation. You have now completed your training in how to map buildings for missing maps.